Welcome everyone. I'm here with special guest Mateen, the Drifter. Hey everyone, clap it up for him. Clap it up. Clap it up. So Mateen, we've been planning this. I don't know how long. We've been going back and forth. You've been sending me a schedule back and forth, and we've been like
Oh yeah, my work schedule. Yeah,
trying to figure out when can we do this. All right.
yeah.
So a little background on yourself. Tell the people what you do and where you from and
Oh man, that's a long story.
no.
Do I start with my name? My name is Mateen.
Uh
I think last time I checked, I woke up today. I was Mateen. Uh, and yeah, so uh, I'm an '80s baby. Kind of grew up in the '90s.
okay.
Um, and my brother, he's 6 years older than me. Uh, he's the one that got me into cars. Um, and I guess you're starting kind of off on the car note, as I think that's probably what people are
No.
most excited about. Um, I was, I guess I followed a little bit in his footsteps as far as like getting into cars, and but as a kid, I always had Hot Wheels and things like that. So
Okay.
I was, I like to say I'm part of it was myself, but he was the one that got me into like import tuning and stuff like that. He had a Honda Accord, and we made a Trays video back in the day. I'll have to show you that video. It is quite entertaining if you haven't seen it. Um, and yeah, so he got into it. I started, I was always into computers, and so that's very interesting because there's a connection between um, stuff that you could kind of just download off of like there used to be a site called Street Fire,
no.
um, and you just find anything and anything you could about cars through Kazaa, or there's all kinds of videos like that, and you know um, and then you also be able to go to Best Buy. You could rent DVD, you
Yeah.
could buy
Buy
DVDs and
DVDs,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah, you think about
so
Blockbuster.
yeah, so believe it or not, um, I always liked rally driving.
mm,
As a spectator, it's very interesting.
mm,
And we always, there used to be a channel before the Speed channel was Speed Vision,
yeah.
and Speed Vision had a lot of real time, like Acura, the NSX, real time NSX, the real
Yes.
time
Yes.
Integra, and we used to watch that. But they used to have a ton of WRC.
Yeah.
And of course, when you watch WRC as a spectator, it's like all about the slides. You're
Yeah.
like, how insane of a slide will we get to see? And that's the most entertaining.
No.
So, we always like the idea of sliding cars, you know, burnouts, doing peel outs, anything like that just was always just really exciting. Um, and I'm not exactly sure how it came across because um, I don't I definitely got the DVD, but I think I uh, found it on the internet prior
Okay.
to purchasing it. And you would just find anything you could, any information about cars that you could. It was just a sponge for knowledge in a way, but not in the way of being nerdy, in a way of being like more on the reckless side of things,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and I just used to think all of that was so cool. And this is leading up to watching Tech Academics Mischief, the first one,
Okay.
and uh, that was not knowing it, somehow it was a lot of the stuff, and Mischief, if you're familiar with Dido, Dustin, and all of them,
Yeah.
they were based pretty much like 30 minutes from where I lived. But that had no effect. We didn't know them. We thought that they were, we watched the videos, we thought that they were cool, but at the end of the video, uh, you start realizing everything that they're doing is pretty local. And then they had Hyperfest, the 2002 Hyperfest, and there was a drifting contest. And this was probably I think it was around '02 when I probably first saw it. '02, '03, around that.
Okay, I was gonna
Um,
ask you like, oh, they started Hyperfest in 2002, or was it like?
yeah,
Okay,
I believe the first Hyperfest was either '01 or '02.
okay,
And even at that time, they all started having drifting competitions, even at that time.
yeah,
And, but I mean, like, no one's ever heard of drifting. It was just really about like who could hold their car in like a slide on one turn for as long, you know, for as much of the one corner as
right,
they could do. So,
right,
you have people like that would slide like the first portion of just that one corner.
yeah,
And that would, that would be the kind of the person that would get the most points or whatever.
yeah,
Um back then. So but I was like, man, Hyperfest looks like a really good time. And like I'm gonna try to go. So 2004, my buddy Adam, who I'm still friends with today, and I worked with him for a while, but we were friends since we were like 6 years old. We just said, hey, let's go to Hyperfest. And like the second we got there, you're hearing, you know, VTEC bouncing off the rev limiter, going into the into what, turn 9 on Summit Main, like the crate, like we're like 16, 17,
yeah.
like this is the craziest thing that we've ever seen
It was
ever.
it was
Like,
probably with my first Hyperfest when I went with you guys. I was just like, what, what is going on? There's so much going on. I don't know where to look.
yeah. And the wild thing was that they had a drifting 101 that day too. And we watched people at the beginning of the day, and they were just like spinning out, and at the end, they were like linking that one corner, or they were completing a drift on one corner. And at the time, I mean, that's more than you know, that's like the dream,
Yeah,
right? That was more than anybody was really doing, and that was
yeah,
like so far beyond what I thought I would have been able to accomplish as a driver or just
right,
as a car person, right?
right.
So we were like, you know what? Next year, me and him, we made a pact. We're like, we're gonna come back.
That's
So
sick.
I was 17 at the time, and I, uh, I just kind of I moved in with my sister. We had an apartment together, all three of us, me, my brother, and my sister. Um, and I had a job. I got a job at Target, and the first two paychecks, I saved up, and there was a junkyard near where I live. If you're familiar with this area, it was actually off of South Lawn on Goody. It doesn't exist anymore, but
No, no, I'm not too familiar.
um, there was a junkyard. It was called Robin D's. And if anybody's familiar with this area or grew up in this area, they might have remembered. And anyway, so they had a two 240s there. One was like completely wrecked, and then the other one was a coupe. And I was a little disappointed because I didn't really want a coupe, because coupes weren't like they are now. Like no one liked coupes. Coupes were like the ugly stepchild. You know what I mean? So
Everybody want a
uh,
coupe now.
yeah, and but I was like, you know what? This is my first car,
Yeah,
and I don't know anything about it.
yeah.
Um, there used to be local meets. This is related. It's a little bit of a tangent, but it's related. There used to be local car meets, and um, my one of my brother's original friends that I ended up seeing a lot at the car meets, we just became better friends. And he's like, "Yeah, you can store the car at my house for about a few months, but just when I asked you to get rid of, move it and just move it." So I was like, "Cool." So I found a place to store the car, um, and I was like, "You know what? What's the worst that could happen? It's my first car, had a salvage title, you know, and let's learn, let's see what we can do." And I didn't know that much. I took a few classes at MC, intro to automotive, AT 101 and AT 105 were the classes that I took, just kind of learning as much. But my buddy Joe, who I was keeping the car, I mean, he was a master tech.
Hmm.
And then my buddy Pierce as well, Both really helped me get that car going. Um, and yeah, I
Was it
long
what?
story short, huh?
Uh-huh. Keep going. No, no.
So long story short, like I ended up driving that car for about 6, 7 years. Uh, and that same car, uh, I was able to win the 2008 Drift Nirvana Championship with that car,
Wow.
drifting championship. So, um, yeah, that was well beyond what I ever thought that car. Because the idea was like you just spend the least amount of money.
Right.
If you put it into a wall, because that actually happened when I first went to Hyperfest.
Right.
Somebody there put their car into a wall, and you know, I will never forget this. He got on top of the car and was like, "What am I going to tell my mom?"
Oh
But he
my
was
God.
joking,
No.
because it was like an S13. It had an S13 front end on it,
Oh yeah.
which was like super rare back then.
Whoa.
Um,
I can
so
imagine, dude.
yeah, so in '05, I got the car about 2 months after that '04 Hyperfest. So September 17th was when I picked it up of 2004. Pretty much worked through on it all winter. And by worked on it, it started after a few fuses that was missing. It needed a new radiator, needed a new clutch, and a new transmission. So I bought a transmission for $50 for a KA from a guy named John Ma. Still friends with him till today. And got a eBay clutch for like $100. Actually, it wasn't an. I'm gonna look on that because I might not have been an eBay clutch. I think it might have been an Advanced Auto Parts clutch. Either way, it was $100.
Right.
What? And then I drove that car all winter. Once I got it running, I took it to the state police. They approved it that it was repaired salvage, so then I could get tags for it.
Right.
And I got I wasn't historic, so I actually had to get it to pass state inspection. I
What year was this?
This would have been '05, early '05,
Okay.
because I went to Hyperfest in '05 as my first official drifting event.
Did you drive that car
Um,
there too or no?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the night before, I bought it was a J30 LSD.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a viscous LSD. So we put in the J30 LSD like the night before Hyperfest. So that was my first time in my life with a rear wheel drive LSD car. Um, I'm sorry. What was your question?
No, no, no. That no, it was that. It was the year you said '05. So
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So um, that was these are some really fond memories. So
uh,
for me at least, like, so yeah, we went up there. We went up to Hyperfest. We registered and everything for Drifting 101. And I remember getting there on like Friday night. The whole like inner section. Everybody was camping out in the it was actually the regular park, but it's the infield of Summit, Maine,
okay.
which was all gravel at the time,
Yeah.
and that was like my first time sort of like experiencing the extra grip of an LSD, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get stuck because it was like some deep gravel, and like I didn't. I was like, yes. So that was my registering for that. Rental helmets. They ran it as a HPDE, so you had an instructor in the car that was more like just basically reminding me of the flags. Um, and
He say a bow wow. Hey, what you're gonna do is go and power it.
that wasn't even a thing back, like not even a thing. Like, yeah, none of us even knew what initiation. Like, we watched the Drift Bible. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
Like,
right,
and
right,
using the e-brake,
right, right.
but like the thing about the Drift Bible that I feel like a lot of people miss, or like even when I was it is actually dedicated for people that are like maybe have 5 years plus driving experience, just period, with a manual car in some sort of like high level. So like when Kaiichi Tsuchi is talking about like heel and toe, and you're like a 17-year-old watching it, it's like, what on earth are you talking about?
Heel and toe. Like what?
Yeah,
What is that? Are you dancing? What are you?
yeah, exactly.
The first,
Yeah,
even with me, heel and toe road racing, I was like, what are you talking about? Heel and toe.
yeah.
They're like, bro, clutch. You you like
Rev
do a
match.
little, yeah, you dance with the car. I'm like, all right. That's when I started watching videos about it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Rev matching and keeping the car stable, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like I even to this day, like my process of learning to drift, I think that e-braking is like the hardest because there's no time when you're driving a car normally where you have to press in the clutch, rev the engine at the same time, and pull the e-brake all at the same time. Like that coordination, I think is actually like from a beginner, that's like the hardest
insane. I can imagine. Yeah,
to to uh to get. Yeah. Um
I can imagine going like 40, 60, and just like ah. You're like,
yeah.
what else should I do? But I not to cut you off.
No, 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 no.
I seen a lot of drifters. A lot of drifters don't use the e brake as much. It's more like clutch, bang it, let it go, go. It's like
Yeah,
more
yeah.
like, and turn in, bang it, and then
I think, well, I mean, I know it's like looked down on, and like in FD, like it's considered a correction for a
yeah,
lot for FD, but I also think that well, since a lot of everyone's running higher compression engines,
correct.
there's some natural engine braking. Like uh I remember going from a KA to an SR, and with a KA, because it has higher compression,
Mm-hmm.
shift locking, uh, which watching the Drift Bible, if you remember, is like the second technique that's supposedly even easier than anything.
Yeah.
Um, doing a shift lock is easier with a higher compression motor. And going from an SR, I was like, man, I can't shift lock this car like the way I used to, because that would be my thing. Just drop the revs, put the clutch in, and then let it come up and lock the wheels and initiate that way, and then just like pulls it right in. I used to do it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now I just don't do it, and I feel like um, once you get even more compression, which I've never really experienced, but like if you were to get to like 12 or 13 to 1, you just have so much engine braking that I feel like you could just let off and the car will float a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
is my theory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, a lot of these V8 cars, I feel like you don't necessarily need to have uh, to e-brake as much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
By the way, everyone, Mateen drives a 240. You still you still drive the 240 you picked up, the red one, right? Oh no, is
No,
that a
no, no, no. The
different
red
one?
one is done. Unfortunately, uh, it was a silver two-tone coupe. And if you see me online, you might see my username somewhere of Twin Tone Coupe somewhere, um, on certain games and stuff like that. And yeah, it was two tone, and unfortunately, in 2011, yeah, 2011, I dailied the car up until then, and I got T-boned in that car.
Damn.
Uh, Luckily, because it had a cage, is pretty much why I'm still here, because the car was bad. I'll
No.
send you pictures of it.
Oh
It was
yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
bad.
we'll put pictures up. You guys can see.
Um,
Dang.
yeah, I woke up in an ambulance. I have
What?
literally no recollection of the accident
It just
at all. Like, I don't
happened.
even know what the car even looked like that hit me. I don't even know what the person that hit me looked like. I just know that it
Whoa.
happened, and I got a bunch of tickets because apparently it was my fault. But
What?
uh, um, yeah, very interesting. If you didn't know, if you can't defend yourself, sort of in an accident, I don't know if this happens anymore. At the time, I happened to have not the best driving record. So
Uh,
because I didn't have a good driving record,
they
and
determined it as
as my fault, yeah. So that is why it's like it's kind of important to have a driving record because if you can't defend yourself, and I got a lawyer and everything,
Right, right.
and it wasn't bad. I think I got like 1 point at the end of it, but
No.
um,
I mean, you're young. You probably were still young at the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still young now, but
No, 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 no. Younger. Younger.
yeah,
Younger.
yeah.
All right, man.
So
What? Talk to me. I know a lot of people don't know. You
mhm.
are on. You were in FD, but what was your main job in FD? I know you work with
Yeah, so I was the first year I was crew. Pretty much I helped with the nut and bolt checks of the car. Um, Pretty much anytime after the car goes out, you got to pretty much check. There's a checklist of things that come loose to be mindful about. So we had a checklist of that. And so that's primarily what we did, making sure that everything was prepared, help, set up the pits, things like that. After that, I became a spotter. And what a spotter does is kind of if you don't do anything else, one of the most important things I feel as a spotter is making sure there's communication between the FD judges, staff, and me and the driver. So uh, making sure that if they say, "Hey, we're going to hold cars for 5 more minutes with a 5 minute delay, or we're going to extend practice for another 20 minutes," I need to be able to relay that to Alex, who was or I need to be able to relay that to the team, things like that. The other thing is to watch what other people are doing. Um, and if people are doing e-brake initiations or the track, this is probably one of the biggest things, and I feel like one of my biggest contributions, which is probably going to seem very minuscule, but the track temperature changed from day to night by a lot, so
yeah, I can
the track will
imagine.
grip up.
Yeah,
So, if you're not the first car qualifying, you can use other people's qualifying runs to determine kind of the track condition. And then you can make the ride appropriate. So a lot of times it was like, oh, what, everybody's gripping up, loosen up the car. And once
yeah,
you relate that to the team, then they'll go ahead and like, loosen it up. And I just try to tell them what we should do and how they do it, whether it's damping, whether it's tire pressure or removing or adding a sway bar or whatever.
right,
That's up to the mechanics to do that.
right,
But it's just my job to watch what everybody else is doing. Um, I mean, it's how much data do you want to gather when you do
right,
a job like that?
right,
So you can get. I mean, there's people getting timing everybody's runs to making sure that their cars are in there.
right.
Um, I got to the point where I was trying to where I did an overlay. So I took some video
Yeah,
and the person that we were going to go up against, I actually did a video overlay of
yeah,
them together. So you could see, and then you could do a time it apart and sort of make your own like tandem run
yeah,
to
yeah.
see where this person would pull away
Right,
in
right,
what
right,
areas.
right, right.
Um,
That's pretty
I'm
cool.
giving you some top secret stuff here, actually. So yeah,
If you don't want me to
so that
put
was
that
my.
in,
Oh no no
let
no
me
no
know.
no, that's fine, that's
Okay, okay,
fine.
okay.
I honestly think that simulated runs,
Mm-hmm.
like taking people's perfect practice, like a good practice run, versus your competitor's perfect practice run, and then doing a simulation between the two,
Yeah.
is something that spotters should be doing anyway.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
um,
It's like literally you. It's like Gran Turismo. You see when you do a lap
yeah,
and then
exactly.
pretty much.
Yeah. Um, it takes a lot of time and effort, and it's hard to do it in real time. So
Right.
that's another thing. But yeah, so I did some of that, and then a lot of how people initiate is important to communicate. So making sure the driver knows because you don't. One of the things about FD, I'm sure like you are getting like maybe 10 runs if you don't have any car problems and if
Right.
nobody else wrecks on the track,
Right.
you might be able to get 10 runs.
If you're lucky.
Um, if you're lucky, yeah. um, there are many people that have been fixing their cars the whole time. Their first run of this of with that car of that year is an FD qualifying run. And some people make it, but generally doesn't really end that well. That's
Yeah.
that's that's what we see a lot of. So um, you know, anything consistent. The idea is that the drivers are expected to go pretty much 100% all the time, or at least 98%, very little margin for error.
Yeah.
So being able to communicate as much about uh, the other driver as you can, so they can feel comfortable doing that, I feel like is sort of what a spotter does,
Right.
and it's really their role. Um, and for me, like I wanted to become like I had this dream of being like as good as like some of the other spotters. They talk about strategic moves or weaknesses of other drivers, and like a lot of the like racing stuff of like finding ways to finding ways to beat people
Yeah.
competitively. Yeah. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Your first time. Okay. Your first time. Well, let me put it. You know how the kids are right now. What's going on? I know you have this video. I saw it on your story one day. I think you were
Uh oh.
working. You were working and you were like, he turned around so fast. They were blocking the streets. We don't talk about
Yeah.
those guys, but we don't want to say it, but it was the most funniest thing ever. I don't know if you still have that video.
Oh, I could. You know what? I'll say if most of the stuff is archived. All my stories are
Yeah.
archived. Um, and because it lets you put them in reels later. So yeah, I could probably find that. Yeah, that was yeah, I was driving Uber one night, and yeah, I was like, I heard some tires squealing. I was like, you know what? Like to me, like takeovers don't really like. I know they exist, but they don't like really exist. If you hear a car doing some burnouts and squealing, it's some dude having some fun with his like new car in an empty parking lot all by himself.
Right, right, right.
And you go and he might be like the coolest person and like trying to get into drifting and like is just really excited about it. Like,
Right.
so that's to me, it was like, oh, you hear a car doing some burnouts, like far away from everybody, like, in some private parking lot at night, like I'm gonna go try to find that guy,
Yeah.
and talk to him, tell him about, going to the track and like how much quicker you can improve. Uh, but unfortunately, when I did that, yeah, I ended up it was like a blocked intersection. It was like a takeover. Um, and I was like, I like my body work and my windshield, and I've seen videos, and I was like, you know
Yes.
what, I'm gonna go the other way.
Yeah. Dude, these kids, I don't know, nowadays are like ridiculous. Like I understand your kid, you're trying to have fun, blah blah, but don't do it in the middle in this section. Go like to like
Yeah,
a lot or like one of those what do you call those truck lots?
yeah, I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about. Yeah,
yeah. Go do it there or
shipping
something.
shipping lots, or
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
shipping companies. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right,
industrial
right.
areas,
Right, right.
nobody around.
Nobody around.
Have somebody spotting if there's a car coming.
Right. I could imagine like, a family just passing by, just trying to get home, it's late
Yeah,
night,
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, don't do that.
yeah. And I mean, the thing that I tell people about like street drifting and anything, like you will never ever get a podium on the street. Like
Right.
you'll never get that experience of working really hard
Yeah.
and winning something, or achieving something. Even if like you do a competition
Yeah.
and you achieve like 10th place, and and then you do another one and you're like ninth place, and you made that improvement, and you're
Right.
working, like you don't get any like data or statistics
There
when you're
is
doing stuff on the street. There's no
mm,
point. You
no,
get nothing out of it.
no,
Maybe like
some
a clap here and there from somebody, but like nah, like
yeah,
go try to be on a podium, man.
right, right. Definitely because it doesn't do anything. You're just going in circles and
Yeah,
uh, that's it.
yeah.
Just go to a merry-go-round. Just get on that. And just be like,
My merry-go-round.
just do that. I mean, it's the same thing. You're doing the same thing, going around, going like this.
Yeah. And in the words of Twink, tires ain't cheap. That's their third set for today.
Bro,
Like,
talking about tires, dude. I'm sitting here looking for my size, and I'm just like, because one, I drive a lot. I'm not tracking. I'm not like
mm,
speeding all over the place. I'm not racing. And, kudos to you. You have the money, get it. Kudos. But for me, I'm going to work. I'm trying to be
yeah, yeah,
comfy. I'm trying to be safe when it rains. Because I've
yeah,
seen too many cars having, racing tires in the rain, in the snow, and it's a scary thing, bro. It's a scary thing.
yeah,
I can imagine just driving in the rain and just like your back end just go whoop, you know.
yeah,
Even I'm front wheel. Like I noticed that my I have before I changed it, my tires are really low. I'm not gonna lie.
mm,
I went a little bit above 65, and my front was like, I'm out of here.
mm-hmm.
It was like, I'm out. I was like, oh, slow down. But I can
Yeah,
imagine like summer tires, not summer tires, but like racing tires on a in the rain. And I've seen too
yeah,
many of my friends like just hydroplane just going because
yeah, yeah,
they're don't get it wrong, they're great tires in the heat, but when it rains and snow, it's like, oh, I'm sliding
yeah,
all over the place.
yeah. I mean, I feel like you should, if you're gonna put some tires on your car, you should be going to the track anyway. I'm all about going to the track.
Yes,
Like
yes,
if you're not going to, like if you're going to work, yeah, put like the safest things you can,
yes.
you know, um, because rain, like, yeah, I don't like hydroplaning. That scares me actually.
Dude, it's a weird feeling. You're like, oh, my, is my car either crab walking or doing some random stuff? You're just like,
Hmm.
dude, have you ever felt a car go wiggle, 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 wiggle? I mean, I mean, imagine drifting. It's a weird
Yeah, yeah,
feeling going to the side, but your car just wiggling around like, oh.
yeah. Well, like the mindset of drifting is that you're drifting. Like I'm gonna make this car
Go
slide.
right.
Whereas if it happens randomly on the street, like it still is gonna catch you off guard because it's
Yes.
doing something that you're not expecting the car to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Like even if you're drifting and new to drifting or whatever, like
Right.
you're expecting the car to do something unnatural or weird or strange because you're putting it in a weird or different environment. But
Right.
when you're expecting the car to go straight and it starts doing something that it's not supposed to do,
Right.
like yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah. All right. Tell me. All right. What's next for the 240? I know you've been I know it's you've been on construction, and because I remember
Yeah.
we went to Hyperfest, it was overheating. Um,
Yeah. So a lot of that is I fixed a lot of that with a lot of the overheating was a pressure cap, pretty much a
okay.
radiator cap that
Oh,
didn't wasn't holding pressure.
so it wasn't
Yeah.
super big. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something a little bit of surging in my system that I want to figure out. Like when I turn on the pump, it kind of uh surges a lot of fluid through it. And
Right.
even if you bleed it out and bleed it and bleed it, and
Right.
even if there's no air in it, it still kind of has this like surging effect.
Mm.
Maybe it's just because the pump, it's the electric pump, it turns on real quick and turns off. So I'll figure that out. Some people will say to put restrictors on there. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um, but also it was like 100 degrees that day.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really hot that day, dude. Even walking to the pad, it was like sweat.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I've learned, even with a rear radiator setup too, is like it's so important to be able to vent out all the hot air. Like you can have a rear mounted radiator, but if you cannot extract all the heat away from that radiator,
Yeah.
it also, is not going to have that same effect, So, yeah, right now I'm in the process of, you know, about every 5 years, I try, you end up kind of having to do an overhaul, at least for me,
Yeah.
of something big. Um, so I was kind of overdue for one anyway. And at that time, you end up having to sort of re get all the new gear, all new seats, and get new harnesses that are in spec and stuff like that. So it kind of just ends up happening. So it's been down, fortunately, for about a year, almost about a year. I
Mm,
switched jobs and things like that.
yeah.
So, but right now the goal is I'm upgrading to the V3 Wisefab. It puts the steering rack in the front of the subframe. And I actually drove an E36 at Driftland. I was lucky enough to do that. A guy named Rory, he was like he trusted me with his car. I met him like a week earlier. I met him like a week earlier, and he's like, "Yeah, you're taking for a spin." I was like, "Cool." So I got to drive Driftland, and I really liked how well the car left foot braked and turned, and I was like, okay, like I should really consider doing this to my car since it's very similar.
Mm,
So and the benefit is you start running rear sump for the 2J, so
okay.
it's a little bit of work to do it. You got to go, like I said, you got to go rear sump with the 2J, and then you got to pretty much new subframe, new entirely new arms, and I already at 100 DoD of last year, I ripped my some clutch lines, so I have to replace some clutch lines and stuff like that. So basic maintenance. I wanted to inspect the clutch. I want to inspect, just some of the. I built the motor, so I haven't looked at it since I've built it. I mean,
Oh,
I've
so
done,
more power.
huh?
More power.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'm probably not gonna run any more power.
Uh, oh, so it's pretty much
I
same power, but more reliable.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and I increased the compression,
Okay.
8.5 to, well, I'll tell you. Well, I kind of had to build the motor, so
Right.
I'll tell you the story behind that if you want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I, you know, I've always had one of the things, and I like to I hope that people can look at it as an inspiration. Like I've never ever had my own garage, up until like pretty much recently. That's a proper garage. I've done everything in either on the side of the street, on the side of the road, um, you know, in like apartment complexes, mostly storage units.
I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but when you said that, you said in apartment. I could. When you said in the apartment complex, I can
yeah,
imagine the living room, and you just in there like, yeah, get me. Can you grab me something to drink? Just in
not
a minute.
inside the living room.
No, no,
Don't try this at
no,
home,
no,
guys.
no, no. I got that. I can imagine you somebody just walking like, what the fuck is going on here?
um,
But yeah, you're
yeah. So like, I eventually got. This is actually great. I recommend everybody to, if they can afford it, find an enclosed trailer. I don't currently have one, but I used that. It actually worked really well as a garage. If you have a place like where I rented, I had a little bit of a driveway, so I was actually, well, I should say, a larger driveway. And I was able to get a 24-foot enclosed trailer in there, and that was my garage when I was renting a room at that house. And it was this way for since pretty much 2016 to about 2020, around that. So for a good amount of time. And yeah, I did everything in there. I pulled the motor in that trailer. And I think in the process, I just had a absence of mind. I just wasn't paying attention, or I was busy, or something. And I put the head gasket on upside down. And what happens is it closes off all the,
oh, the water.
well, at least what happened to me, it closed off all the oil returns.
Oh,
So
oil return, not the water.
Yeah. So what happens is that you'll start it off, you have great oil pressure and everything looks good. And then as the car warms up, the oil doesn't come back down to the oil pad. So then it's like, oh, so as it warms up, it like the oil pressure drops to zero
Right.
because it literally doesn't have any oil.
Right.
And if you don't know, if you think you did everything right and you think that the engine is sound, you're like, why would it do this? You're like, oh, it may be a bad oil pump. So I put thicker fluid in it, tested the sensor, like no idea. Um, and then but it was like kind of okay.
Yeah.
So I tried to drive it. Anyway, it unfortunately spun a bunch of bearings and
Oh
it spun all the bearings.
no.
And this happened in 2020. This is my saddest story for drifting. Like this was at the beginning of this was in 2020, so this was during COVID. Like nobody was really racing, nobody was really doing anything,
Right.
and this was a shootout. And I was pushing. I was always been pushing to try to get into FD, try to
Yeah.
get into FD, do FD. Um, and the event it was a U.S. drift shootout. And one of the things is from at the time and in the past, it's probably not this way now. And I'm pretty, there's great drivers all across the country everywhere that are doing pro am. But at the time, I feel like there was a perception that the people that did well and got their licenses through U.S. Drift also performed pretty well in Pro 2. Like it wasn't coming from the bottom going up. It was, pretty much going from either mid pack and going up or like top 10 driver right off the bat.
Right.
So that's why I was like, oh, I wanted to stick with, I wanted to do U.S. Drift because it was actually labeled as one of the toughest pro-ams.
Mm.
Um, so um, in COVID, when they had their shoot off, this is also when I was having the oil issue. When I was preparing, it's like the big event for the year, and you make all the plans, and you're like, my car's gonna be like top notch, like everything, set up, checked off. It's gonna be good to go. That's the money. That's the event you spend all the money on. Um, and what was crazy is that because it was COVID, because of all the other sanctioning bodies at the time stopped, um, they had the opportunity for 5 licenses, and only 13 people registered for the event.
Oh
So
damn.
there was a 40% chance that you can get your FD license at that event. Um, and my car didn't work. My car broke, and I spun a bearing.
Oh my god.
um, yeah, I came pretty close to to crying that day.
I can
Uh,
imagine. I know that feeling.
yeah,
That feeling is in your gut and your freaking chest. You're like, and if you worked on it too, it's like, fuck.
yeah, and you know, I've had SRs. I have had about 3 SRs, and they've all spun bearings, and so I know exactly what a spun bearing sounds like.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not even like,
It's like it's like muscle memory. Boom. Oh
yep.
fuck.
So
Yeah, that thing is it's not a good sound.
yeah. So this was why it has a built motor in it, and why I want to. And this is, I took the next 2 years uh, because at that same time the cost of 2Js went from pretty much $1,800 to $2,000 to $7,000 and $8,000. So the plan was originally never to build it, just to always replace it,
Right.
because even in 2019, 2020, like they were so cheap that you know you can run however 500 horsepower or
Right.
600 horsepower
Right.
roughly reliably.
Yeah.
Something happens, who cares?
Get a
two
new
thousand
one.
dollars,
Yeah.
you know. And unfortunately, I was like, I'm not gonna buy another one for 7 grand, 8 grand.
Yeah.
And so I had the option. I was like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna have to build it because
Yeah.
and at the time, all the people that I knew that were building motors, It was just a 50-50. Like no one, I was talking to people, there wasn't a lot of people that were getting really good results
Right.
from shops. So I was like, you know what, I'm just 50-50 chance. I'll do it myself. It's literally going to be the same risk as of going to a shop. So
Right.
did the horsepower academy thing. Um, did as much research as I could, and it seems to it dynoed. Technically, it dynoed 460 on a low reading dyno. Carl Hernandez, who tuned it, he says it'll do 550 on any other dyno. On Ignite Red, it's got a
Okay.
G3770 turbo, 1300 cc injectors, BC 264 cams. Yeah, it. I've had Tommy Cole, who also he's the one who spotted for me in Pro Am
Okay.
most of the time. He works at P Tuning. I believe he still works at P Tuning, um, which is actually by your way a little bit.
Okay.
Uh,
Fredericksburg, Stafford,
I
Woodbridge,
think it's like Manassas, but
Manassas. Okay. Okay. Okay.
yeah, area. It might be that's a little more north
Okay.
for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's like 15 minutes away from you.
yeah, and even when I gave him a ride last time in it, um, he was like, "Yeah, this thing spools like insane. There's no lag.
I
That's
can
because I've got
imagine.
a log manifold. I built it for spool. Like it's not
So
supposed to be.
quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the easy car to drive. Like I'm a firm believer. The easier you make your car to drive, just the better you're gonna perform.
Oh yeah. Of course.
So, so yeah, just to answer the long-winded answer of your
Yeah.
question.
No. You're good. You're good.
Um, yeah, so I just wanted to go V3 Wise Fab because I thought it was pretty, I think it's pretty cool. And I really like the way some of the BMWs drive. So I can get my 240 to drive similar. I think that would be pretty nice. And it's really much it. I'm kind of moving. I don't want to say I'm not still pushing hard to do pro,
Yeah.
but it's more like I've seen the people that do well, and I just want to start doing more seat time, more practice.
Right.
Don't I like to get to the point where like I don't need to build the car because there is always a learn. Anytime you do a mod, there's always that learning
Oh, of course.
phase.
All the time.
Um, and this is why I wanted to do initially when I first went to WiseFab. I took a long time to do it, knowing that it'd be almost about a year to sort of relearn it. It wasn't that bad, but
Hmm.
um, I don't think that even going to V3 is going to be I have to relearn anything
Right.
for those particular mods, but it's going to give me hopefully more tools to work with when I'm on the track. And that's pretty much it. I'm seriously considering nitrous um, because the power curve. Um, we'll see. The power curve is really really nice, but uh, I still want less lag.
No, but for you, I think you should drive it and then consider nitrous.
Yeah,
See how it
yeah,
is.
for sure.
I know people that never drawn with nitrous, and it's like, oh no, we don't need it no more.
I think any competitive 2J car needs to have nitrous from what I've seen in FD.
Yeah.
I think that the people that don't use it really, really struggle. And I'm not, you
Even
know,
even with that that high power, or even I'm saying like your car, quick
yeah.
boost, even with like that.
Um, it can help, but if you have to make corrections behind a driver is really where you can really get into a position where
Right.
the car doesn't do what you need it to do.
Right.
A lot of times, at least for me, and maybe I'm just inexperienced, but when you're doing tandem, um, I feel like I have to do almost double what the car in front of me is doing to be able to keep up.
Wow.
So like when you make a transition,
Right.
if you're not like if you don't time it right, then you
Right.
actually have to really speed up
Right. Right.
and accelerate the car. And then if you accelerate the car and then they do something weird,
Right.
then you have to like slow it back down. And there's a lot of times that I found in tandem and also in other times when even with a faster spooling, it's just it just has to come back on and it takes a while and it takes a second to,
Right.
it's not like a V8 car. And
Right.
honestly, I hate to say it that like the Jay-Z's, at least my perspective, you have to consider the fact that you are going to be going up against a lot of V8s. So
Yeah.
your car has to perform uh with your like your competition. It has to be able to go up against, it has to be as responsive as a V8. So
Right.
as long as nitrous can help is with that,
Right. Right.
even
Right.
though, you never want to put yourself, and also, the redundancies, right? So um, probably what I would end up doing, even if I didn't add more power, it might just, like I said, smooth out some of the power band areas or just add a little bit of spool to it.
Mm-hmm.
But if for some reason a intercooler goes off during competition, and I lose all my power, Odie has this where his nitrous he'll start spraying more nitrous to overcome the fact that his supercharger fails. And that, I believe, from my understanding, that can happen like during the run. So like stuff like that is what makes a lot of these cars more reliable. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like redundancy is, I like redundancy. I'm a computer guy, RAID 5 all the way, redundancy.
Oh my
What is it?
god.
RAID, what is it? Like RAID 6 with like 3 parity drives. Anyway.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man. We're done. Is there anything like you want to
bro, I
mention?
could keep going.
No, I think we actually passed our 30-minute mark, so we are like at almost an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Um
Well, what helps you? What would help you out more? I mean, I'm just.
no, that's pretty much it. I just talk for 30 minutes and pretty much all natural, nothing um everything is all natural, from this part. Any
Well, people can get part two though if they sign
yeah,
up for your Patreon, right?
I throw in a little feet pics there too.
Oh, really? On the Patreon? All
Yeah.
right.
I don't have a Patreon yet. This is for me. This is all fun. Trying to get to know the
Yeah.
community, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people stay in that little box, and I like to expand. You know, more branches out, not to
Mm-hmm.
stick to one thing, because in the community of like drifting, stance cars and race car drag cars, it's all, some people don't like it, some people do like it, so it's like I'm trying to bring that all together and say like we all love the same thing.
Yeah.
Let's all
Yeah.
be a big family and enjoy everything.
I'm all about it. I'm all
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, and there's and background conversation with different other people. They'd be like, "Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like that." And I'm saying like, we all like the same thing, but some people just stick to that one thing, and it's like, I can't convince them, but it's something for like the community that are coming up that don't know
Hmm.
that are like following me and follow my page, something different to where, everything is the same here and the same over here, and plus my some of my peers don't even do drifting. It's like a couple of them is like 4 or 5 peers of mine that do drifting and stuff. They just stick to one thing and that's what it works. But that's another story. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now. This is why I'm doing the interviews with everyone, to get to know pretty much everybody, and people that are coming up know everybody, and what's, what they like. But any shout outs you want to give, like sponsors or friends that been there, or you know,
Oh man. Man.
if you have a list,
I have
take it
I
up. You can't
Jeez.
do the whole list, or you can do half a list or however you want. You know.
Bro, I mean, everybody, like, so many people helped me, especially in the beginning.
Hmm.
Like I said, Joe, Pierce, um, uh, we called him old school Eric. Um, man, I'm missing. I know I'm missing somebody, and they're gonna be like, "Why didn't you mention me?" Um, at Alex, letting me spot for him being on his team, that was super helpful. And I really, really appreciated that. The experience of doing that. Um, you know, um, I haven't talked to him in a while. Thomas Miata was also like when I got the new car, the red car, like it's been a while, I guess, since I've drifted. Like, didn't know the car, new to a 2J at that time. And he just saw me do runs and he was just like, "Bro, where's your suit? Come do some tandem with me." And like, anytime you invite me to do something, like I'll remember you because it's like, it takes a lot of effort to go out and, invite somebody to do something in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times, I can be introverted and
Yeah.
you get hard on yourself and think
Yeah.
that, oh, you're not good enough or whatever. So, he's one of the people that sort of push the second phase of the drifting with the new car and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
To add, I'm sorry to cut you off. To add to that,
Yeah,
I first time I met Thomas. Thomas is such a chill guy. Such a
yeah,
chill
yeah,
guy. Like he's so laid back. He's like, yeah, yeah, come by, do whatever. If you want to come tomorrow, come again. I don't care. If you want to sleep over, go ahead. You know, he's so chill, so mellow, so
yeah.
chill.
Um,
Anybody
who
else you
else?
want to?
Who else? I mean, I talked to, I don't know if you know Brandon, Brandon Gray, black. He's a black hand driver.
No.
He has a red coupe as well. If I'm not mixing him up with his brother, which I do sometimes, but uh, he reaches out all the time. You know, but I'm not like the people. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for Tech Academics and Dustin and Dido, like I probably wouldn't have continued to do it. Um, just the whole community, like. I was this weekend I was at 100 DOD and just talking to people that, Summit Point's like my home,
Yeah,
so, talking to Charlie Tyson and, Nate Chen and, Alex and just all the people there. Just all the people that, have supported me. I've had my mom come out to events,
that's
and
yeah.
she helped me, unload some tires, at one
That's
point.
all. That's awesome, dude.
Uh, so Um, you know, shout out to that. Believe it or not, my family has been pretty they don't come to events like that, but they're pretty supportive and they like what I do.
That's
At
awesome.
first it seems kind of like, a big money pit and like why you're doing this,
Right.
but once you start like once you start taking it seriously, people around you, especially family,
Yeah.
will start taking it seriously. For one thing that I've noticed. And then once you start like, you know, podiuming or you getting trophies, like then people are like, oh, this is like, like it's like your kid's into soccer, you better come
Right.
out to the kid's soccer game.
Right.
So man, I give yourself a shout out, for doing
Hey, hey,
hey man, like
hey,
letting me talk about myself for a half an hour, like
hey.
or an
That's
hour.
that's that's what it's all about, man.
Um, I'm trying to think of other people. There's so many people. I'm sorry
Yeah.
if I'm missing some people, but
No.
like, as far as like sponsors, like, um, I'll always appreciate Fortunato. I don't, I'm not sure what I can do for them, which is one of the things I'd like to do, but they were the first real coilover that they use, and they were a good sponsor for that, helping me out.
Those.
MDJDM, that's where I got my 2J. initially. They were pretty supportive of that and helping me get that. And they've always helped me if I needed some like little parts and things like that. They've helped me out with that. So definitely, they've been, you know, for, you know, they've been pretty awesome as well.
Yeah.
So and honestly, like the biggest thing is like it seems like a lot of the drivers, the pro drivers that I've ever talked to, were like the most supportive people that I've ever met. Um, there used to be some people like Nate Brass, um, Matt Martin, rapper Dan, they're all like super supportive as far as just like, how to get better and things like that. Um, Charlie Tyson, all these like
Yeah.
just like the whole community. Like it's hard to
Yeah.
say because like everybody's such a, you know,
I notice drifters are very supportive with each other. Even if the car breaks down, everybody's just
yeah,
attack mode.
yeah,
Get it done. What do you need? What I got it here.
yeah,
They pull it out like you need a big. I got it here. Here you go.
yeah,
That's what's pretty cool about the drift community that I noticed that they were really really helpful. Doesn't matter what it
yeah.
is. Like, yeah, I mean, you get your, your cocky people here and there, but pretty much like even the big guys, they're like, "Yo, what you need? Like, I got you." You know.
Hmm. I mean, I'll hopefully, maybe this will spark something, and you can talk to this guy too. But Jonathan Nairn, he's a Pro One driver. He's like, um, I think one of his drivers. We were doing tandem, and he gave me a little bit of a tap, and like he came up and was like, "Is everything all right?" Like it was just like somebody with like such a high level and somebody who like I respect their builds and their cars, like coming up and just, you know, making
It,
sure that I was cool, like
yeah,
and
it's so
okay, like
surreal. Yeah, it's so surreal. Oh,
yeah.
talking about that, not
Uh
we are adding more. The time is still going. Talking about that, I never ever I haven't told you this yet, but I really appreciate for your we were at FD in Jersey.
yeah.
You brought me up to what's his face? Oh my god, what's his name? Um, you probably remember by his suit, blue suit. We were all remember they were doing the signatures.
The autograph signing,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I came up to you and I was like, "Oh, Mateen," and you introduced me to one of the drifters, and I was like, "You were like, yeah, this is one upcoming photographers." I forgot who he was, but you know him, like you're really close to him. You're like, "Yeah, it's my buddy. We used to drift together, or whatever." But
Blue
he's
suit.
blue suit,
Was he pro or pro spec?
pro, curly hair.
I mean, I could name all the pro spec guys.
I
Like, I mean,
remember.
I could name all the pro drivers. But you
Um,
going from the top to the bottom?
um. Oh my god, I wish I knew. I forgot his name. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I'm bad with names. Like if I don't
Oh
talk to
no,
you or see you all the
he has
time,
a blue suit.
it's a gray and blue checkered on the side. He's pro for sure. He was pro.
Blue, blue,
I think
blue.
he drives a blue BMW.
You're talking about Dylan Hughes?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Dylan Hughes is like the man,
Yeah.
and like him, his dad, his family, like
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, yeah. Because you were telling
bro,
me, you were like, "Yo, his dad, they're cool and stuff." Yeah, we were all. You were talking to him, and I was just next to you, just like I'm shying away, like, "Oh my god, it's
oh, no,
Dylan."
Dylan Hughes is like the
you,
coolest guy ever.
yeah,
Like people change because they need to change, and I'm not, if he ever becomes mean, I'll understand. I don't think that's,
right,
doesn't seem like that'll happen, but like, yeah, like he's a super cool guy,
yeah,
you know. Um, and there was some videos. Brett Collin, who owns Collin Adapter, like he we all did like US Drift Pro Am because like I said, US Drift was the toughest drifting. So everybody there's other drifting events and it's not like I'm not definitely not putting down any other series, but
sure.
definitely a lot of people came to US Drift because it was, the toughest. Um, and I feel like the tracks help with that, adding the difficulty level, reverse bridge and things like that. Like, I mean, technically that's an FD course, right?
Right, right.
So, um, and yeah, I was just watching some old videos. He had a 240 coupe that was two different colors. The front of the car was the different color than the rear of the car, and
Yeah.
just humble beginnings. I feel like all
Yeah.
of us,
Yeah.
and he to me is like, you know, he's a huge inspiration because seeing somebody in front of you go through the ranks
Mhm.
not only makes it possible, but also like you have to support them because it's like you see the work that they put in,
Right, right.
and they're getting results from it,
Right, right.
and I'm confident, he's going to win a championship one day,
Yeah.
um, and I anyway, I can Dylan Hughes is cool.
Yeah,
I could say so
yeah,
many
but
positive
but
things
yeah,
about.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate you. That was a moment that I can't forget. That I was like I was saying around. I was like, Mateen, you know him? Because I look, and to be honest with you, I don't know. I started watching drifting about like 2 years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
but the reason I started watching like FD and stuff was like Adam LZ. I was like, oh, what's FD? And then
Hmm, hmm.
I knew drifting. I knew like Japan drifting, but I never knew like it was a U.S. thing. I saw it in Japan
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they had Formula Drift in Japan, but I never knew at the time it was
yeah.
here. So I was just like, oh, snap, okay, you know,
Yeah, it was like that for a long time. Uh I believe about 2012 when Daigo Saito came over, that
yeah,
really changed it from being, hey, this is, Japan's is the best and the US. I mean, technically JR beat all of them in '05,
well,
but and that was the first time an American person beat the Japanese. But I feel like once we all stopped watching option videos, and when Kaiichi Tsuchiya left D1, it brought a lot more worldwide focus, in my opinion. This is just what I feel. There's
yeah,
no data behind what I'm saying, but this is
right,
just the way what I feel, and maybe more towards myself is that's when it started changing. Like, oh, like there are other drivers that are really good. There are Frederick Bosbos and
mm-hmm.
James Steen and
Yes,
all like these really, really good drivers that are all over the world. It's not just Japan now.
right, right,
Um, and I think there is also with that switch of, change of Gogo Daijiro and Kaiichi Tsuchiya not being in D1, and it made it a lot less interesting to watch a lot of the option videos, in my opinion.
right,
Switching to FD, and then there was another piece that I was going to say that really changed it to really being big in the US. And honestly, just the market became
right,
pretty big, you know. Um, and I think it's as big as it's probably ever has been in
yeah,
the US. And it's crazy. It doesn't feel like it, but um,
right, right. It doesn't feel like it, but it is like,
yeah,
and it's still growing, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah. And I mean, that there's another topic on that, like where like a lot of people are really want it to be grassroots.
yeah,
And to me, I feel like I was an early investor
mm-hmm.
getting into it earlier on. Like to me, it's like, oh, I feel like, you know, you wanted to get good and you had time to get good and you wanted to get good. A, I was younger, and B, the sport is still developing,
Right,
and knowing that eventually it's just going to be like a huge leap to get into it, like getting into on a NASCAR team,
right,
or F1 or whatever. It's going to eventually have that same difficulty. But if you're already either grandfathered in, or you work on a team, or you do something, then
right.
you can at least have a way in at some point. But
Yeah.
I don't know. You gonna do some drifting? When are you gonna go out?
I don't even know, dude. I really want to, but once the money's right and I have like a better job, or maybe YouTube starts my career,
Yeah.
that's when I'd be like,
I
okay,
mean,
guys, I'm buying a drift car today.
I mean, it. There's nothing wrong with doing it by yourself, but I think like if I've one of the things that if I could leave any recommendation for anybody
Mm-hmm.
is I got a buddy Ben who just got they're sharing a drift car with three people and they're all
Oh, that's pretty
they're all
cool.
young people that
Yeah.
they're but they all know that they all know the risks. Hopefully, they all know they all can get together, get it going, and then when they go to the track,
Right.
one of the things that I would like to see change um, is per car pricing. I know people might not like this, and I'm sure it changed for a reason. But if you can, you know, have a discount for people that are sharing cars, um,
That'd be pretty
and that way
cool.
they can bring the cost down by a lot, and you're not really losing any track time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's one of the things that used to be in the past, and now it's better. So therefore, people can go all in on like a car and then split it half day and share it and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and another thing is that if once you go beyond that, then you get like a three-car trailer, um, and you all bring your cars to the track and all do compete together.
Yeah.
And realistically, you only need one other person
Right.
to get good at competition that is also trying to get good at competition. If you
Yeah.
have that person, I think that you have such an advantage because you're you know and communicating
Yes.
of
Yes.
things that you see that they can work on and
Of
you can fix,
course.
and
Yeah.
that is really like some of the best ways that I feel like people improve really quickly that
Yeah.
I don't see enough of. Sure, I've seen people do tandems all day, but
Right.
no one has ever really um no one's ever really communicated like oh, let's really work on this line. Can you
Right.
this is why another thing that I shout out to Thomas, who was like we were lucky enough to do a private day, and he's like, hey man, your entry is like garbage. And I was like, oh, what do you want me to do? He's like, just flick it like a normal car, or do this such and such. I don't remember exactly what it was. I was like, okay, yeah, if that makes it easy to follow me, yeah, I'll do that. And then I'll do it. Like I'm not like and I just wish there was a lot more of that
Yeah.
um,
So
back
constructive
and forth
criticism, like,
criticism, back and forth talk,
yeah.
discussion, knowing that it's not coming from like you
Right.
suck, but like
Right.
you know or just like that's your style, this is your style, let
Right.
me figure out a way to like
Right.
you know
Right. Right.
if you initiate this way, I'm going to show you why I can just get on your door,
Right.
and it's like competitively a disadvantage, or if you do this other type of initiation, why I can't keep up because it throws me off and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Um that's what like a lot of you know I feel like a lot of like Odie, who has the three-car team, and you know RTR,
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
doing it too,
Yeah.
and even if there's such a huge gap between driver skill, um even just having that dialogue of back and forth is just
Oh yeah. Of
you know
course.
yeah you know it's probably one of the better ways to improve, so
No,
more of
definitely.
that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we wrap it up. Thank you, Mateen, for your time, man. Finally, we got you on board. Part two will come on soon, maybe during summertime. We go check out the car, maybe on a track day, or just
Yeah, maybe it'll be overheating at that time.
no, no, it'll be
No, I'm just
fine.
kidding.
It'll be fine. Maybe in
uh
car, maybe we do like a short film with like a reel, just talking, chatting while you drifting. Like, how's the car feel
Dude,
inside?
I love it. It has to be like a chill day, but like if you can have a conversation with people while you're drifting. It's like hilarious
Yeah,
because a lot of times, no, you like if you're with a passenger, like they don't even respond. But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
I'm thinking about going around this corner.
Yeah.
I
So
don't drift
what?
like that.
Just yelling at on the mic like, so what do you feel? All you hear is the engine goes, "Ah!" and the camera just like, like, how do you feel turning this corner right now? I'll show you.
If I don't have like a cool suit, I'm gonna be like hot. This is hot. Everything's hot. Oh
Well,
man.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see on the next time.
Yeah.
Next
If I
time.
can get, I have a seat time car that I'm trying to put together, BMW E46,
Okay.
and I really wanted it to be a car that I can, people that I know well, closely, I can let them drive it. Kind of do more of like what I was talking about,
Oh
sharing
yeah,
cars.
yeah,
I think that uh, the days of sort of people going building cars from scratch is just so much effort and work
mm,
that that's why you're going to see less and less of it. I feel like, um, and people are going to either start getting used pro cars, or
yeah,
people will start sharing cars, or money's tighter these days. So
yeah,
as long as people still want to do it, they'll find a way to do
yeah,
it cheaply. Um, so I think people should share cars more.
yeah.
Just not my red car. It's too personal to me. But
Somebody
uh,
create a rental drift car. I know. Like Drift HQ
his
does
his
it.
name is Alex Licklider, and he has a drift experience. And
There you go.
I try to push people to do that as much as possible. So, but it's one of the things that I find is that um, people are comfortable around me and trying new things because they know me. Um, and I'm not saying that as like, oh, it's just more like that's just kind of how people are. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know me, so you're going to be more comfortable like trying a drift school
All
that
right.
I have
Yeah.
than some random person then who knows that, you know,
You're doing it the wrong way.
yeah, like how many people have PTSD from
Yes,
trying to
yes,
learn how to drive manual with their
yes,
parents,
yes.
and their parents just yelling at them? Like,
Imagine.
this is why like half the people don't drive manual anymore because their parents yelled at them.
No, you're stalling it. Why is it
Yeah,
doing this?
yeah. Like,
Oh my
when you post this, hopefully
god.
drop somebody will ask somebody should drop a comment of like t- how many people that they know that have had been yelled at trying to learn how to drive manual.
I'm gonna do it as a short a
Yeah,
reel real quick. Just cut this and how many people you see all the comments? Me,
yeah,
PTSD. We all need
like
therapy.
yeah. After learn trying to learn how to drive manual, and then everybody wonders why it's like a 3% of the cars made are manual.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
All the parents' fault.
Yep. Yep.
And my brother taught me, and he was nice to me.
I talk a couple people and they've been like very
Yeah,
like even with the on the Type R, I'm like, this stalls, you know. But they'll freak out once they hear that noise. Because the way it doesn't stall as like because I have an electronical, so I don't know if you know this, but I have electronical downshift. So
okay.
I don't have to um do the heel toe thing. So I just
Hmm.
downshift and it does it by itself.
Okay.
So the way it cuts off, right? The car just goes it doesn't even bog. It just goes, and people are like the first time I let my friend. He did pretty well. He didn't did
Yeah.
so bad. Like he wasn't like bogging it or nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was really like But when he stalled, he was like, "Dude, did I break your car?" I was like, "No, it's normal. It's a safety mechanism. So when you do that, it just shuts off." But yeah, it was the funniest thing. It just goes. That's it. Because normally older cars, the engine goes. It
Yeah,
just
yeah,
shuts
yeah,
off.
yeah,
But I was waiting for that moment that just cut.
That's funny.
But it just does done.
And that's it.
That's it.
Oh man.
But thank you again. I can't thank you so much for joining me and having free time.
Thank you. I mean, I I've secretly always wanted to do one of these
Yeah.
because it seems like anytime you see the highlight reels of it, it always looks so cool.
Yeah.
And then I get to, hopefully promote it and share it and
Yeah, yeah. Definitely.
uh
Well,
yeah.
I
So
will when I'm editing it, I'll send you all the I'll text you what I need